Keep coming, family. Keep climbing, gang. Let's keep climbing that mountain today, family. I hope you all are well and blessed. I am so happy my brother Bobby sent me this video because y'all know we had a very upsetting, crazy, out of pocket video yesterday requested sent in of Margaret Sander. You know what I'm saying? The whole Planned Parenthood, abortion, you name it, you know what I'm saying, that whole type of deal. And you know, this and how I was talking real reckless and crazy and stuff, man. But I wanted to thank Bobby for sending me this video. And this is the myth of Margaret Sander's racism. And shout out to Chestnut Checkers. And we're gonna just see what is, you know, we're gonna learn and see what is gonna be said in this video. And I'm probably gonna learn a lot of things and maybe have to rethink some things, you know what I'm saying. But shout out to Bobby. And to anybody else watching, I love you. Sending you all blessings, love, and health to you, your family, your loved ones. I'm in a good place. I'm calm down. I'm chill. Yeah, I know I love people so much. I don't believe in hatred. I don't believe in racism. I believe that we're all the same, that we all need to lift each other up. And this life, man, God, I mean, everything, it's just love. I feel like we just need to love each other, man. It's just love, you know what I'm saying? I don't care what you believe in. I don't care your skin color, your hair color, none of that, how much money you make. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I love every last one of y'all, man, because all the stuff, the materialistic stuff and all the stuff in this lifetime or whatever, it doesn't matter, man. At the end of the day, we all got to die, man. So just love each other, lift each other up. You know what I'm saying? And I don't believe in no hatred, no racism, man. I'm just letting that be known right now before we start today's video. But shout out to Bobby, man. Let's get into this video. And hold on, let me make sure my thing didn't cut. Are we straight? We are straight. We're rocking and rolling, brother. Yeah. I'm gonna need one of them beers, Bobby. Bobby, I'm gonna need one of them beers. One of them cold, one of them lights. You know what I'm saying?
Chestnut Checkers podcast. A podcast where it's not a game. Or is it?
Standing in the midst of a pandemic, making plans for
Episode 1.
got me feeling like a young boy making plans for getting older.
He must have quit because it don't look like it. I don't know. I ain't really check out this channel, but you know what I'm saying. First video, episode 1 did pretty good.
Cause the city's getting colder. It don't matter what the season is, especially if our leadership is treasonous.
The Margaret Center is the lie that brought together.
Not just in the White House, even in hip-hop, we got some cowards tearing down the very culture, giving them their power. Corrupting our sons.
I don't even know this is a podcast. People have been asking for it, so I said, you know, let me just go ahead and try to put something together real quick. And, you know, if people respond to it, maybe this will turn into something. I don't know. Got a couple issues that I've been waiting to speak on. Nothing too serious to start us off. Well, I guess it is kind of serious, but we're going somewhere. It's exercise, and you know what I mean, how we think. One of my good friends said, man, I like the way that you challenge us, not in what we think, but how we think, how to think. So that's kind of what I'm gonna attempt to do here, and I figured I'd pick a topic I've been
I could just tell he remind me of my cousin, man. Very smart and highly educated, just by the way he talks, his body language. Yeah, so I feel like this is gonna be a good video.
To speak on for about a year, because I always see people making comments about this, and I guess it's kind of controversial. You know, you always hear people talk about Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger and the racist history and all that. And I said, man, you know, I'd like to just share some ideas that would help us to think about how we're thinking about it. And, you know, I'm sure it'll be some interesting dialogue as we back and forth on this one. Something interesting happened. July of 2020, it was sort of like a weird convergence of conservatives and social justice. Like you don't really see those two coming together, but the conservatives who have been pro-life in it for quite some time actually coalesced with those concerned about racial issues when they saw Planned Parenthood finally came out and said, yo, we're going to no longer carry the name of our founder, Margaret Sanger, the name that has become infamous. They said we're not going to have her name associated anymore. And both conservatives and blacks who had always read and been told, yo, she had racist aims, they all celebrated together, like, yo, high five, like, even though we don't normally get along, yeah, we finally won. I was paying attention, like, man, what's really going on here? They released a statement talking about why. And really what it boils down to was they said, hey, after about almost 100 years of this organization, we can no longer stand.
It's been almost 100 years.
What they said, the racist legacy of eugenics that's tied to the founder of the organization. And if you think about what they're really saying there, they really were not confessing that Margaret Sanger was racist, dealing with any of her comments. They just said there's a racist legacy of eugenics, and that's been tied to her and then tied to us, so we're dropping her name. But that was enough. I mean, for most people in the culture, it was like, hey, they admitted something, that's enough. But if you think about what was going on,
so they say, well, like they said, like they told, like y'all told me, you feel me, Rick? She said that it was for blacks, Negroes. It's a sad world we live in. I mean, we go all the way back to when this shit all started. Now that I really think about it, and I don't mean to have this video paused, and I want to hear this guy out, and and I know I can already tell this is headed in probably in a good direction. I can't wrap my head around it, man. I hate this history shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Even though I love history, I hate it. I love and hate it, man. I just have a love and hate relationship for it, man. It makes me sick to my stomach, bro, to think that we would just
on at that time. Like, why was that enough? Remember, this was in the wake of George Floyd's murder, and the whole nation was sort of in an uproar, looking for like all kinds of racial reckonings.
I ain't gonna lie. Can y'all see me? Bro, what a freaking coincidence. Look at that Martin Luther King quote. Look at that Martin Luther King quote, man. Can y'all see it? I'm wearing my Negro shirt, man. I don't even, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people say, like some people say, I'm not even gonna say it, man. But it's just a coincidence I'm wearing this shirt about George Floyd. I Can't Breathe. And I found this shirt for $1 at the thrift store, so I just grabbed it, man, long time ago, and it's a comfortable shirt, man, that hangs low, so I just like it. I like my loose fit, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, if I was George Floyd, though, oh yeah, I would have died still that day, because I'd have went out with a fucking fight. Putting your goddamn foot on my goddamn motherfucking neck. You know what I'm saying? I got a will to live. You gotta have a will to live. If I got to die fighting the white man, cause y'all done threw me on the motherfucking ground. You know what I'm saying? Then gonna lie and say I'm resisting arrest. If I got to die, cause you got your goddamn shit on my neck, I got to die. Whoo, I feel like I could run through a fucking wall right now. I'm getting so fucking pissed.
Confederate flags were coming down. Confederate statues were coming down. Aunt Jemima put on whiteface or bleached her skin or something. Aunt Jemima got...
If you ever shot a gun, you remember that first time you ever shot a gun? That's how I'm feeling right now. Pow! Pow! Ah! Ah! Oh, this racism shit gets me fired up, boy.
Got a lot lighter. And so with all that going on, Planned Parenthood couldn't afford to withstand any longer the claims of, hey, y'all got to do something. So they did what they could. They fessed up to, eugenics can have a racial undertone or overtone. She was associated with eugenics. Therefore, we're just not even going to fight anymore. Let's not even get into the nitty gritties of what she said or try to defend it. Let's just divorce ourselves from her and her name, and that'll be that. But that still was not enough for purists. People who said, hey, y'all are still in the black community, aborting babies, and y'all are still racist. So there still is a conversation to be had about, man, is there a point there? Is Planned Parenthood racist? Was Margaret Sanger racist? I'd like to offer a different perspective on that.
Let's hear it.
And I know you're probably sitting there waiting with tomatoes and
Let's hear it. Yeah, I got goddamn tomatoes and all kind of shit ready. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Bobby got me set up. I'm ready. I'm ready to hear it now. Come on, baby.
To throw. But pause, chill, ease up for a second.
Okay, I'm gonna ease up.
Let's think about this. This
Okay.
is chess, not checkers. Don't just make a move like, we won. Nah,
Okay.
there's more.
Okay.
And here's why this matters.
I love that chess, not checkers perspective as well. I love this like episode podcast series. He should have came out with more. I don't know how many he did, but I don't know. I'll look at his channel after this.
Especially for conservatives, especially for conservative Christians, people who claim to love the truth. What if it turns out that you've been enlisting a lie to help you proclaim your truth? So I'm not saying don't fight your fight. I'm not saying that you should be pro-abortion. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is what you're standing on to make these claims, especially some of the emotional appeals that you're making, are not on any good ground at all. So let's look at history real quick, and let's see if history agrees with the current claims that people are making about Planned Parenthood's racist ends. So you might know historically that there was something called the Negro Project. This was part of Margaret Sanger's looking at how to get her message of birth control into African American hearts and minds.
Yep. The Negro Project.
And so she had this thing called the Negro Project. Now what's interesting is African American leaders joined her in this Negro Project. You had people like Adam Clayton Powell Jr., who was the pastor of the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. You had people like Mary McLeod Bethune, who was the founder for the National Council of Negro Women. And you got to ask yourself, like, do we know today better than they knew? Did she fool them? Like, did she somehow trick them into supporting her Negro Project? Maybe she paid them off. You might also know Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1966, when he received Planned Parenthood's Human Rights Award. He said this in his speech: there's a striking kinship between our movement, meaning the civil rights movement, and Margaret Sanger's early efforts. King went on to say, Margaret Sanger back then had to commit what was called a crime in order to enrich humanity, but we look at her and honor her courage and vision. Now wait, what was it that she was doing that was called a crime? Was she going around killing babies? No, she was advocating that women take control of their reproductive powers. Now you can argue with her aim, but King's point was she was a hero for the way that she stood up for women. Now maybe you're saying she fooled King too, or paid him off. But that's not all. There are more historical figures that joined the Negro Project. One of my cultural heroes, the co-founder of the NAACP, W.E.B. Du Bois, actually strongly supported the Negro Project. In fact, it's a comment that Du Bois made in Margaret Sanger's Birth Control Review, a magazine that she published. This comment is often attributed to Sanger, but it was actually him who wrote it. When you hear it, you're like, "Dad, that's kind of sketchy." But listen to what Du Bois said. The mass of ignorant Negroes breed carelessly and disastrously, so that the increase among Negroes, even more than the increase among whites, is from that portion of the population least intelligent and fit, and least able to rear their children properly. Okay, so Du Bois is not a racist. He is an African-American leader. Now, Du Bois was often called an elitist, and rightly so, if you think about his talented 10th concept. It's a little bugged out for Du Bois to think he knows best who's most fit and unfit among African Americans to reproduce. But being elitist is not the same thing as being racist. Those are two different issues.
Two different things.
And so we might have problems with Du Bois saying that. We'd really have a problem if Margaret Sanger said it, but she didn't. Now, she did say something similar, but with a very distinct difference. 2 months prior, in the April edition of the Birth Control Review, Margaret Sanger said, the United States should keep the doors of immigration closed to the entrance of certain aliens whose condition is known to be detrimental to the stamina of the race, such as feeble-minded, idiots, morons, the insane, syphilitic, epileptic, criminal, professional prostitutes, and others in this class barred by the immigration law of 1924. But notice what's missing in her list. There is nothing about race. Now, I know somebody's sitting there saying, but what about that one quote, though? You know that one quote. Yeah, there is that one quote.
That one quote.
That one quote. It's like if you put it in context, you realize you tripping if you try to make that into, see, this is proof that she was a racist. You can find this quote in a number of places. Here it is in a USA Today article. This woman quotes it as if there's some kind of like evil genius plot being hatched here. She grabs these words all out of context and doesn't tell her readers what's really going on in this letter. So here you have Margaret Sanger trying to convince a doctor who's a supporter of her birth control movement. She tells this doctor, we should get African American ministers to help. But look at the way it's kind of grabbed here. Basically, get over your reluctance to hire a full-time Negro physician. Why? Because colored Negroes can get closer to their own members and more or less lay their cards on the table, which means their ignorance, superstitions, and doubt. Now, if you don't know the context, you're like, she says Negroes and calls them superstitious and we're going to hire one of them. And so you're just thinking something bad's happening here. But then you get to the next part and you're like, oh yeah, it's really bad. It's even worse. The author of this piece compared Sanger back in those days to the abortion lobbyists today. Sanger urged Dr. Gamble to enlist the help of spiritual leaders to justify their deadly work, writing, we do not want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out the idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. This sounds so dastardly. Aha, this is the smoking gun. We've got her. We've caught her.
Shit sound fucking terrible. I ain't gonna lie. I'm giving it. I'm hearing it out though. I'm hearing it out. It sound. I'm liking the way this guy is giving me things to think about. You know, he's giving me things to think about. You know what I'm saying? You usually, mama say when they show you their true colors, that's them. You know what I'm saying? Grandma and mama used to say that all the time. They still say it to this day. You know what I'm saying? When somebody show you your true colors, that's them. But he giving me something to think about though. You know what I'm saying? So let me just finish hearing it out. You know what I'm saying? Daddy said the same thing before he died. When somebody show you their true colors, whoo, this world, man. 1920s, 1910 slavery days, picking cotton. Niggas then died. A black man got killed yesterday by a hatred white person. It's gonna continue to happen next month, next year. Who knows when it'll stop? This post-sad goddamn world we live in. Let me hear my guy out though, man.
This is proof that she's out to exterminate the Negro race. But think about what's really going on here. Is she really saying to her white friend, let's hire black ministers and they'll help us keep our secret that we want to kill black people? Like, what are you saying about black ministers that you think that they're gullible enough to go along with this and help her trick black people into exterminating the race. Maybe something else is going on here. Now, when I first read this, I was working for a pro-life organization in Philadelphia. We were going into the schools under a grant from the George Bush administration back in 2007. And I read these words. They were sending us into the schools with these pamphlets. And I said, yo, this is crazy. But I was also a Bible college student learning the art and science of interpretation, aka hermeneutics. So I said, before I go in here and expose her for the demon that she must be for making statements like this, let me find out what the context is, just to make sure that I'm not demonizing someone.
Yeah.
Well, when you put it in context, it changes everything. What Margaret Sanger really said is, colored folk in the South are different than colored folk in the North. In the North, we had people like W.E.B. Du Bois able to appeal to African Americans on an intellectual level. But in the South, blacks are more superstitious. She says, while the colored Negroes have great respect for white doctors, they can get closer to their own members and more or less lay their cards on the table. This is where she's talking about their superstitions. They do not do this with the white people. And if we can train the Negro doctor at the clinic, he can go among them with enthusiasm and with knowledge, which I believe will have far-reaching results. His work, in my opinion, should be entirely with the Negro profession and the nurses, hospitals, social workers, as well as the county's white doctors. Now, this is where the context really comes into play. His success will depend upon his personality and his training by us. The minister's work is also important, and also he should be trained, perhaps by the Federation, as to our ideals and the goals that we hope to reach. Think about that. If we train him in our ideals and the goals we hope to reach, not if we hide our ideals from him, not if we keep him in the dark about our goals. If we train him in our ideals and the goals we hope to reach, what will the result then be? Then the word will not go out that we're out to exterminate the Negro population. That's where she brings in this, we don't want the word to go out idea. We're used to hearing that in the context of don't let the cat out the bag, or I've got a secret I don't want to get out. But she's not saying that. She's saying if we do the right thing, if we train the minister in what we truly believe, then no one out there will get the wrong idea thinking that we believe something that we don't. And yet, the irony is, decades later, that's all people think she means. Now, I still think it's a little wild that in her mind, the minister is the one to keep the rebellious ones from the population from trying to sniff out, hey, what y'all up to over there? But in this case, they weren't up to anything. Now, you can still refute that if you want, but now you can't go around acting like you don't really know what was happening in that letter that people are quoting and taking out of context. Now, just for a little more historical context, in the same year, she wrote a letter to another friend of hers talking about the need to support her work with African Americans in this outreach that she's providing to almost every other people group, be it natives, even women in the KKK, which I'm like, dang, okay, you was rocking with them too. But she's saying the same thing about the benefits of birth control to women in each of these groups. But think about what she says about African Americans and why it's so needed. She says, African Americans are notoriously underprivileged and handicapped to a large measure by a caste system that operates as an added weight upon their efforts to get a fair share of the better things in life. Now, you don't have to agree, but her worldview is that unplanned or poorly planned pregnancy puts children in the worst predicament and continues to enslave women. This is what drove most of what she did in her life. Now, was she a eugenicist? Most historians, and even if you...
This goddamn man got me thinking now. Y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think too as well. I know Bobby gonna break it down for me in the comments a little more. I already know. Bobby kind of gave me a little speech, a little eye-opening speech in my last video. So shout out to Bobby. But yeah, this guy got me thinking, man. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, back in the day, times were, you know, different. And people said things and they could have, this could have been said like this. This could have been said like this. It had this kind of meeting. This kind of meeting. He or she took it this way. He or she took it this way. And around this time, you know what I'm saying, racist was a huge thing. Civil rights movement, you know what I'm saying, Martin Luther King. It was a lot going on around this time, man. So this is a lot to think about, This is a lot of stuff to think about, man. But I just hate it. Oh, I hate it so much. I hate these situations. I hate that. I hate talking about racism. I just hate the subject, man. I just hate the subject, man. If you know me in person, you know what I'm saying, I'm the type of person to give you a hug. I don't care what the hell you look like, smell like. You know what I'm saying? If you musty, I might say, hey. Now you might, you know what I'm saying? I might step back a little bit, but I'm going to still give you a hug. You know what I'm saying?
Read her writing, yes, she was, but she was a reluctant eugenicist. Meaning, because she felt so strongly about freeing women from the burden of unplanned pregnancy, but she also knew that men would not support her mission, she learned to talk the eugenics language of her day to get the financial support to do what she really wanted to do in helping women.
That's a good perspective.
You don't have to agree with any of this, but what you need to keep in mind is that people are much more complex than the flat, black and white, one-dimensional idea that we have of them, that this person is good and this person is evil, or this was the issue and this is the side that they were on, and so they're bad. There's more going on here than that. And you can tell when you look at her writings. Just 5 years before World War II, before the Holocaust, she's writing about Germany's sterilization program. I admire the courage of a government that takes a stand on sterilization of the unfit. My admiration is subject to the interpretation of the word unfit. She understood that the term unfit needed to be qualified. So here's how she qualifies it. If by unfit is meant the physical or mental defects of a human being, then that is an admirable gesture. But if unfit refers to race or religion, then that is another matter, which I frankly deplore. Now, you might find a lot of what she says deplorable itself, but it's interesting that she finds deplorable some of the same things that you might. For instance, her views on abortion are not what many think. When she mentions abortion, it's almost always mentioned in the same sentence with infanticide and child abandonment. It seems for Sanger there are degrees of social woes and things that are worse than other things. She sees child abandonment and infanticide, killing a child after it's born, as the worst things that can be done, but things that are always being done when she looks around the world. So she thinks in terms of solutions. If infanticide and child abandonment are unacceptable, then the next level of options is abortion. But even that she sees as barbaric. And so she comes to her solution, give women birth control, and we won't have to deal with abortion, infanticide, or child abandonment. That's what her life mission was. That's why Planned Parenthood was not focusing on abortion during her lifetime. You don't see the rise of that until after the sexual revolution. Yeah. You often hear people say things like, you ever wonder why all their, or so many of their Planned Parenthood clinics are in the inner city. But it's like, okay, if that explains their racism, what explains why they have clinics in places that are not inner city? What explains why they have clinics, in rural areas? Why do they have so many in the inner cities? For the same reason you find more McDonald's and more Targets in the inner city. There's more people. And think about what the mission of the organization is. It's freeing women, in their mind, from slavery to being pregnant when they didn't plan it, and the poverty that ensues when you plan poorly. And you don't have to like that, but you also don't have to lie about why it is that they're in the inner city. You have to come up with a better argument for that. If you want to do more than just get history from memes or have people with agendas tell you what you should believe about your opponents, there's a very cheap book of her collective writings if you care to know and understand your opponent in this debate.
Complete works of Martin.
My main issue is, if you're going to argue against someone, don't use ad hominem, and on top of that, false information to state your case, because what it does is it makes it seem like you really don't have a case at all, at least not a case that's strong enough to stand on its own merits. So, agree with me or not, this is chess, not checkers. Remember, it's not a game. Or is it?
I like that fella. I like that damn fella. Smart. He reminds me of my cousin, man. He reminds me of my second dad who passed away, man, due to cancer. Very smart, intelligent guy that gave you a different perspective on everything. And to just take things slow, don't think too fast, overlook the situation, give it a different perspective. He reminds me of my cousin so much, man. Wow. And I believe that was his only video too. Yeah, he should have kept doing those chestnut checkers. Yeah, if he ever comes across this reaction, hey, you should have kept doing those, man. You should have kept doing those bad boys. Very, very well spoken. Yeah. I got a lot to think about, man. Yeah, he educated, man, on that topic, bro. He did. He really did. Yeah. Yeah. A whole lot to think on after that. I'm not gonna lie. But I'm just reading some of these comments. But you see, it's like we all go back and forth and everybody got the same view. Everybody say this and that. They were just repeated and repeated. Like somebody said, what about her speeches at the Klan meetings, calling black folks weeds? Let me see the replies. Worked with Hillary, he answered. All that in the video. She did not call black, exactly, you know what I'm saying? She didn't call black folks weeds. Did you even watch the video?